What's up, ladies? Welcome to week 2, lesson 2. And this week we're talking about bye-bye gluten and sugar. So we already saw the first lesson. It was all about sugar. Now this week, the lesson is about getting rid of our common enemy, and that it's getting rid of sugar. So I am going ahead and start the PowerPoint presentation. Grab something for you to write down, grab something for you to take notes, because again, as I always say, the key to a sustainable change, it is actually being able to understand what's going on so that we can make conscious decisions every time we're going to decide what to eat every day. All right, so let's get started. All right. So here we go. Week 2, bye-bye gluten and sugar. Oops, a little sensitive there. All right, so as I mentioned before, our common enemy, it's sugar. And we're going to, at the end of this lesson, you're actually going to discover what is really what happens in our bodies when we eat sugar. So we're gonna discover the what. Also, we're gonna discover the why. Why do we sabotage ourselves? What is it so hard for some people to actually detox from sugar and just get rid of that addiction, because it is an addiction, right? So we're going to understand exactly why. And then the how. What are some of the things, what are some of the hacks that we can do to actually get rid of this addiction, which we're already doing, by the way, in our program. The reason why I want to talk about it now, it's so that as the week continues and the program starts becoming a little more challenging, we start to get more cravings, we start to get headaches, we start to feel up and down, we need to understand why. So this is perfect timing for it. All right, so the what. So first of all, what does it mean to have blood sugar? So, I mean, what does it mean? What do I mean by blood sugar levels? So basically, blood sugar, it's the sugar that is in your blood. So very, very plain vanilla and very simple. It rises every time you eat. And specifically when we eat carbohydrates. And I'm going to explain why. But the problem is not that. We've been we've been eating sugar and we've been eating carbs and we've been digesting it forever. But the problem is that nowadays it has become more of a mountain and beaches type of scenario. So our sugar levels in our blood could be as high as a mountain, as down as a beach. So up and down, very high levels, very down levels, versus what it used to be, which was more of peak and valleys, right? So more balanced, and I would say a little bit more constant. So the sugar in the blood, just so we clear some terminology here, it's called glucose or glucosa in Spanish, right? So the glucose. It actually feeds the cells with the energy that we need. So this is not bad. The problem, again, as I mentioned, is that instead of being peak and valleys, the sugar levels, it's becoming more like mountains and beaches. So for instance, if you eat a pastry or a smoothie or a piece of cake or a piece of bread, the enzymes are released and they start to break down the carbs in your mouth. Then the molecules get all separated and they end up in the small intestine. It was something that we discussed in the previous lesson about how the small intestine is actually located behind your belly button, and how this is the organ that is essentially responsible for absorbing all the nutrients into your bloodstream. So we talked about that the previous class or the previous lesson. And so this is where the sugar or where the glucose molecule actually enters your bloodstream through the small intestine, and it rises your sugar level. So then what happens is a healthy pancreas will create the hormone that is called insulin. And this insulin will work like a sweeping key. So it will open the little door in the cell and deliver the glucose that we need for energy, for growth, and to repair the cells and to repair the body. So in a healthy state, you eat the right amount of carbs, the right amount of hopefully complex carbs, so that we add some fiber as well. That helps with our digestive system. And so what happens is we eat that, specifically the right amount, the insulin cleans it up, gives it to the cells, and voila, you are balanced. Now the problem is when we have an excess amount of glucose in our bloodstream. And when that happens, then essentially we start having an excessive amount of insulin in our bloodstream, which becomes toxic. And that is the whole key of this slide that I wanted you to picture. It's picture how the process is, how it actually gets absorbed, and then understand that it is a quest of the body to actually stay balanced. And we do that by releasing insulin, and we do that by giving delivering the glucose to the cells. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what the issue is here. So the issue is not that we have sugar in our blood. The issue is the excess of sugar that releases an extreme amount of insulin that our body just can't absorb. So this is what happens. And let me show you a little bit about the process so that you can understand how, by having just too much glucose, the insulin can actually affect kidney functions, brain function, and also the pancreas gets exhausted from pumping so much insulin in our blood system. So once, these are some of the problems with insulin, just to go back. First of all, it triggers you to eat more. Because what's been happening is that the insulin, there is so much insulin that it sends signals to the brain, to the appetite controller, so that we keep eating, so that we can give the insulin a work to do. Because the insulin is just like hanging out there, like just bums on the beach. They don't have anything to do, and their brain is like, oh, I need to eat more so that I can give a job to this insulin that is hanging out in the blood. So another problem that happens as well is that a clot of insulin can cause hyperglycemia. And this essentially will leave you tired, hungry, angry, with headaches, and just basically unbalanced. It also triggers adrenaline, which is an hormone that gets imbalanced. And so the chronic supply of insulin also starts affecting the hormones in the female. For instance, they're also present in males, but the estrogen, and they also can become more carcinogenic. I can't pronounce that word. Carcinogenic. So the whole point here is that this is just the start of a hormone imbalance as well, just by having an excess of glucose in our bloodstream. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that it increases the propensity for obesity, high blood pressure, again, cancer, as I mentioned, heart disease, and of course, diabetes, right? So my grandfather actually died maybe around 4 years ago, and he was a diabetic. So I saw ever since I have memory, every time he would essentially put insulin into his body. And to be honest with you, his diet never changed. He never got better. And they had to essentially cut half of his foot. At the end of the day, he died of a stroke. So for me, that was a little bit traumatizing, because I was seeing somebody that I love so much not doing anything about his health. So this is something that ever since I saw that as well, I became very, very, very conscious about the sugar that I was eating, conscious about whatever it is that I'm putting into my body, because I saw how his life just, specifically more towards the end of his life, as soon as he lost his fingers on his toes, you can see a rapid decline in his health. So this was something that marked me, and again, I try to stay away from sugar because of my own personal experience. So I want you to also think about that. Who do you have in your family that has, again, maybe cancer or heart diseases or obesity or even diabetes? And think about a way that actually that can motivate you and can pull you forward to your goal of staying away from this addiction. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that it also can, I mean, an excess of insulin can cause inflammation on the prostate gland for guys, migraines, PMS. So if you are one of those that have huge PMS, this is also caused by essentially large amount of insulins in your bloodstream. So let's understand a little bit about why is it so hard to actually be successful at removing the excess amount of sugar in our bodies, to remove the cravings. So why is it so hard? And really it's because it has to do with our brain chemistry. So there are 3 brain chemicals called dopamine, beta endorphins, and serotonin. And this is essentially the psychological key. So we already went through the physiological key, so actually what happens in our bodies. Now it is the psychological key. Why do we keep asking for more sugar? So let me explain it so that you can be more conscious about it. So let me explain the first one, right? So dopamine. So dopamine essentially produces the feeling of pleasure, alertness, concentration, euphoria, motivation. My mentor always mentioned this analogy, and it's about how an elephant, when he finds water and it quenches its thirst, he becomes so happy because quenching its thirst produces dopamine. So it's a connection that we make as well, and the elephant makes as well. So elephant wants to seek water again and again because it makes the connection with the nervous system that makes him feel happy. The same with us. We eat a sugar, we eat a candy, and then it makes the connection that it makes us feel happy because of the release of dopamine, and then we want more and more and more. Also, the sweet taste increases the release of opiates in the brain, which also release dopamine. And this creates good feeling, pleasure. It feels like you're being rewarded. So this is why it can be so hard to actually produce sustainable results and to detox from sugar and get rid of the habit. But the truth is, we do need the sweet taste in our body. But instead of getting it from candy, instead of getting it from processed sugar, we can stimulate the release of dopamine by actually ingesting curcumin-rich foods. And we're going to talk about that in the last part of the presentation, which is talks about the how. How do we address this? So again, by eating curcumin-rich foods, we can actually release dopamine, and that supports the fact that we are going to get more attached to eating these type of foods versus just traditional processed sugar. Let's talk a little bit about the second one, the beta endorphin. So it's basically a neurochemical known as a brain painkiller. So it increases the levels with associated with like good self-esteem and a positive coping mechanism. However, when the levels are low, you feel like you feel stuck. So it's that feeling of like, I can't do this, like it just being blocked. Have you ever had that feeling stuck but for not apparent reason? So this could be caused, again, because of the fact that we have low levels of beta endorphin. So what can we do? We can eat low glycemic pleasurable foods and low glycemic sweeteners, which we're going to talk about it. But my point is, there is a solution for each of these neurochemicals that get us addicted to sugar. There is a good whole food solution for this. And then let's talk a little bit about the last one. So the serotonin, it's essentially an inhibitory neurotransmitter. So it is responsible for helping the brain create a peaceful and chill and relaxed feeling. And obviously it has many other functions. But let me tell you how it actually works. So there is an amino acid called tryptophan that is actually a releaser or a precursor for serotonin. So when we have high levels of insulin in our blood, this leads to greater amounts of tryptophan. And so for the brain to synthesize the serotonin, once we see a higher levels of insulin, that leads to tryptophan, which leads to creating serotonin. And that feeling of like relax and chilling, like, like when you eat. And I honestly can totally relate to this. If I eat a piece of chocolate, but the bad one, it's like, it's so delish. But then right after I get acid reflux. Like for me, that's my body telling me, this sucks. This is really bad. You shouldn't have had it. But it's that instant feeling of like, nothing else matters. I feel great. So like an easygoing mood. So let's talk a little bit about, and what can we do, right? So we can include foods that actually have a high tryptophan in there as part of their components. So let's talk a little bit about how. So the solution, again, we do need the sweet taste in our mouth. We do need a sweet taste in our tongue. So the solution will be to go to the local glycemic sweeteners, such as the coconut sugar. There's the monk fruit as well, stevia. We're going to talk about the actual sweeteners in the next part of the presentation, but just so you know that there are options. Also, for the dopamine, we need curacin-rich foods. Curacin-rich foods are things like avocados. That's why you always see me eating avocados whenever I can. Bananas, almonds, lima bean, pumpkin seeds. Also, we're going to see me eating a lot of black sesame seeds. These are all curacin-rich foods, which is an amino acid, which helps the release of dopamine. Actually, it's just funny because in Brazil, avocado is actually a dessert, right? So if you think about it, the sweet taste, it's related to avocado because of the curacin-rich. It's a curacin-rich food. And then the other thing is, like I mentioned, to help with the beta endorphin, the levels, to increase the beta endorphin levels, we should be having a diet that is rich in tryptophan. I'm sorry, to actually, for the serotonin. And what are some of those? We have things like turkey, shrimp, tamari, mushrooms, cod, tuna, mustard greens, spinach, chicken, salmon, pumpkin seeds. Basically, pretty much everything that you can eat in your protocol right now, it has a higher level of tryptophan. So the other thing that I wanted to mention, it's something that we're actually going to be implementing going forward in the protocol, is the magnesium and the vitamin B. These are two important supplements that we should be adding it, because what they do is they actually help the proper convergence between the tryptophan, so from the tryptophan to the serotonin. So once we have magnesium and vitamin B, we're able to make that convergence from tryptophan to serotonin and get that feeling of, again, relaxed, easygoing type of mood. And guys, if you have any questions on these presentations, I know most of them are, it could be a little bit deep and intense, but if you have questions, please send me an email, let me know. But this is made mostly not for you to retain everything, but for you to understand the concept behind, again, why is it that we should eliminate sugar in our bodies. So this is a quote that I love. It's from my mentor, Andrea Nakayama, which has a great program about sugar, which I took as part of my training with her. And it's called, this is what she says: practicing blood sugar balance, it's really an art. So it's not a style. There are different variables for each of us, and understanding our individuality, it's really crucial to success. The reason why I wanted to mention this is because really success is going to be different from each of us, and you become successful at mastering your blood sugar levels by actually getting to know yourself more. There is not you can be working with the most awesome practitioner or doctor in the world, and nobody's going to know you better than you. So really my goal here is to help you understand yourself better. And again, throughout the program, there will be times where you will feel the difference in your blood sugar levels. So if my point here is try to eat something and right away see how your body reacts. So if you eat something and you feel satisfied, you feel with more energy, then that's great. Probably that's the right amount of carbs, the right amount of proteins, the right amount of fiber, and the right portions so that the glucose is being able to be delivered to the cell. Now, the other way around, and this happens to me all the time, whenever you get sleepy, you already know that you ate too much. There's too much going on. The digestive system slows down, probably too much glucose. And that's when we know when the sugar levels are probably high in our blood. So there are other methods that I use for clients that really want to get a handle on their blood sugar levels. There are things that we could do. If you're interested in this, let me know. It's a little bit more advanced and it's not for everyone. It's for clients that really want to get an understanding and measure their blood sugar levels at certain times so that they can tailor their diet towards that. And then let's talk a little bit about the sweeteners. So now that you learn all about sugar and the harmful effects that it can have, this is a great time for us to actually present different alternatives. So I'm going to explain some of the ones that are my favorite ones. The first one is coconut sugar. It is kind of new into the realm of natural sweeteners. It's really extracted from the coconut palm and then dehydrated. It looks like a lighter brown type of sugar. It is not as sweet as sugar. I like it. You just need, again, it's not going to be regular sugar, so you just need to get used to the flavor. The other one is lucuma, which is not a strictly sweetener. You probably hear me talk about lucuma for my smoothie, so I tend to use that instead of raw honey sometimes to add a little bit more of a sweetener, but also consistency. It is really a superfood. It is a powder form of a fruit in the Andes. So that the lucuma fruit actually looks like sort of like an orange and an avocado when you open it. And the fruit itself is quite sweet. So what we do is the flesh gets dehydrated and it gets converted into this golden powder that, again, I use to boost the sweetness on a smoothie or a dessert. It's low calorie, high fiber, and it provides some beta carotene, iron, and the taste of lucuma, it's really good. I like it. It's kind of like a caramel taste to it. And then my favorite and easiest one to find, I guess, is stevia. And it's really the choice when I do have to use sweeteners. Because it's derived from the stevia plant, right? And it's original from South America. It is 300 times sweeter than sugar, no calories, and then there's zero glycemic index. You can find it into a powder form or a liquid form. The taste, it's not bad, right? But it does has a little bit of an aftertaste that is a little bit bitter. Maybe some a little bit similar to licorice. My point is try to use it sparkly with other natural sweeteners. So a little bit of stevia, a little bit of raw honey, in my opinion, a little bit of lucuma. And so remember that you only need a little bit because this is 300 times more sweet than sugar. So for next week, I want us to, right now we're eating raw honey as part of the protocol. And again, just when needed, when we get those cravings, and it's just definitely better than just eating the white sugar. But going forward for next week, where it's going to be in your protocol, we're going to try to find a stevia. I'm going to send you the ones that I like. We're going to try to find the stevia supplement to add it whenever we need to add sweeteners. The idea is not to do it. The idea is to either add lucuma. But if we need something more sweet, and if you want to prepare a dessert, which you're going to have recipes for that, then definitely we're going to start using lucuma. I mean, lucuma, no, stevia. Lucuma as well, but stevia as the main sweetener. And the last part of the presentation is, again, something for you guys to do. And this is why I think the journal is so helpful, because here you can start writing down your how you feel after you eat foods. So write down the foods that make you feel tired, or write down the foods that make you feel good and just keep you energized. Also, the quantities, again, is so important. Sometimes we think we need so much food. The truth is, we're staring at a computer, I mean, probably for 8 hours a day. We're not moving around too much. I mean, we do need to eat, but are we really eating because of anxiety? Are we really eating because we don't have anything else to do? Or are we really hungry? So the way you feel after you eat will tell you exactly whether you ate too much or you ate too little. I always try to eat little, and if I get too hungry, I wait a little bit and then I ate a little bit more, because I don't want to feel like passed out because of too much sugar in my blood. All right, ladies. So with that ends our presentation on our common enemy, which is sugar. I hope that you guys are looking at this eye to eye with me and understand why it is important to stay away, specifically for this protocol, but also going forward. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye. Kisses.